Joy, before then, is it fair? Of course, a party has the right to withdraw even their certificate of nomination, but now it's a bit late because IEBC has already registered these candidates. How do you exactly do that? What if the candidate tells you, no, I'm on the ballot?
Remember the point I made earlier about doing everything last minute? I think when we formed Azimio as a party, the implication, therefore, was the constituent parties ought to have collapsed themselves into one process to get candidates, so that you don't end up having multiple candidates. So like Kenya Kwanza, for example, they are a coalition of parties. So the parties within the coalition are still competing against each other on the ground. They're only united at the top. But for Azimio, it's different because it is a coalition party, so that everybody in the coalition belongs to one party. My problem with this is, with what they're asking Bahati to do and other candidates who have been identified in this zoning process, is for you to run to this point, to go through nomination. It's an expensive process. Unless somebody is willing to compensate you for it, it's one of those asks that's a bit difficult. And Bahati makes, there's one critical point he actually does make, that you know what, if somebody is going to tell me I'm not on the ballot, it's going to be my political party that does it. It's not going to be part of a town hall or a declaration by somebody else other than my official party leader. Because correctly, Sifuna belongs to ODM, Bahati belongs to Jubilee. But the end of the day, if I was a strategist in Azimio, I would ask myself, do I have a problem with the top? Is my presidential vote going to be affected by this action? So, for example, if somebody decides this late in the day that, you know what, because I've been disenfranchised, then I'm going to endorse somebody else. That could affect the presidential tally. Is that a gamble they want to take at this time? Because the guys who are fighting at the local level, let them fight their battle, let them win their battle. Because right now, what they're looking for is not to consolidate the position at the top. They're trying to secure the seats at the bottom. But whether it is Bahati who wins or Oluoch, if they're all in the Azimio coalition at the end of the day, it is a win for the party. But the two might split the vote and lose the seat to the opposition. That's what I'm saying. They ought to have thought of a consolidated position prior to.
Okay. Vincent does not agree. What is the issue? The way I look at it is, if you look at the people who are, if you look at it is Azimio, the conversation is Jubilee and ODM, right? In terms of Anthony Oluoch and Bahati, yes.
Bahati, who are both on the same side in terms of the presidential at the top. So how I see it is that you have to look at it, what is the interest that is being canvassed here? The interest that is being canvassed here is not the votes at the national level. It is the distribution of political seats. It's a sibling rivalry, if I can just summarize it. And you would understand that happens within coalitions because you are balancing so many interests. First, at the presidential level, in terms of what do we do to make sure that we have as many people turning out. In fact, at times, Joy, the way I see is that if actually the parties are competing among themselves, it helps in terms of mobilizing more voter turnout for the person at the top of the ticket. The only challenge would be is that if in the event of you dividing the seat, that there is a Kenya Kwanza candidate who might actually then, you may win at the presidential level, but lose at the parliamentary level, which also will affect your ability to have a say and advance your agenda when it comes to the legislative front. Because a presidential candidate has to have two interests. Winning at the presidential level, but also securing enough legislators who will be able to advance your legislative agenda. Because every government, and we have an advantage of having a former cabinet secretary here, requires
members of parliament to be able to legislate their policies and laws to translate their manifesto into programmatic actions that is meant for implementation. So you have to look at this. You have to look at the issue of Mathare from that dimension. Then finally, it could also be possible that Bahati is gaining ground, because my understanding is that the legislator who, the current legislator is defending his seat. So part of the, in politics is very interesting. You use all tools. Ultimately, the objective is to emerge victorious when it comes to the elections.
I'm looking at the 2017 election where you had Raila Odinga winning the Nairobi vote at 50.8% versus Uhuru's 48%. But then again, 9 seats, or parliamentary seats, went to Jubilee and 8 went to NASA. Of course, one of them went to Wiper, so ODM ended up with about 7. So this appears to ultimately interfere, because that internal competition, you lose the seat, including the Langata seat went to Nixon Korir. But there were 2 candidates from Wiper and ODM. Had they combined forces, maybe there would have been a different outcome. But what is the cleaner way of doing it so that you don't spoil the party for the presidential vote?
There's an interesting question here, Joy, from Sam. I'm underlining the word "the cleaner." This is a process that at times you have challenges. You are calculating how many at the end of the day ways can I emerge victorious. The truth of the matter is that the earlier you agree in terms of who will take care of what parts of the country, in terms of where do you have strength, even the better. Because I see and agree with you that Ed Nasser, for example, agreed on fielding one candidate in some of the parliamentary seats. Possibly certain seats that you've quoted would have actually gone to that party, because what happens? They all utilize their energies in rallying support and actually building momentum for one candidate. So I agree with you, but also I will be hesitant to say that that is a final formula, because there are also dynamics. I come from Baringo County, and I want to give you an example. Until, I think, 2 months ago, we did not know that the current chairman of KANU was going to defend his seat. And it was actually until when he got to the ground that other dimensions shifted, in terms of there is also interest at the local level. In terms, at that point, you're no longer talking about a party. You're talking about a community. I come from the Tugen community, and inside there we have 3 sub communities who are now saying we have to distribute this thing at the local level. So politics is a very interesting game. Its interests keep on shifting, and I think somebody once said that 1 week in politics, actually, it's 1 day in politics is a very is like equivalent to 1 year or even 1 week. So it's hard some to give you a pin drop solution to these questions.
Right.
But I would only provide alternatives for people to choose from.